Hey guys, I want to go over how to write your summary with you today. So our summary, it says, or on page 8, so this is page 8 in your white interactive workbook or your My Perspective book. Your question says, write a summary of grounded. A summary is a concise, complete, and accurate overview of the text. It should not include a statement on your opinion or your opinion of the analysis. All right, so page 8 in your white My Perspective book. So what we're going to start off with is what I always call a tag sentence. And if you don't know what a tag sentence is, oops, sorry, I forgot to click to type. A tag sentence. A tag sentence equals you start with the title, author, and genre. So anytime we begin a summary, we're always going to start with tag, title, author, and genre. So how this would work, we know that Grounded is a narrative nonfiction, and we do not know the author's name, but we do know that she's female because in our As You Read section, your launch text information, it says the way the author expresses of experience with her grandmother. So we know that our author is female. So we're going to start with in the nonfiction narrative, Grounded. I'm going to put quotations. The author focuses on the narrator's relationship with her grandmother. So I'm going to fix my spelling. In the nonfiction narrative, Grounded, the author focuses on the narrator's relationship with her grandmother. Now, our author and our narrator are the same person. So we could change what the author focuses to the narrator. So the narrator focuses on, and I can change this to her relationship with her grandmother. So that's our first complete sentence. Then I want to know what was my first major event. So our first major event is going to be about the grandmother and her background knowledge. So I'm going to say the grandmother used to sing in a band and likes to drive her red convertible and sing, and then I'm going to put why this is important, so comma, a throwback of her youth. So this was the background knowledge. Notice that in Grounded, we started with background knowledge because this is a narrative nonfiction, which means that it is a nonfiction story told in narrative format. So because of that, they start off with background knowledge. So they're introducing us to our characters. The first character we're introduced to is grandmother because she is the main character. From there, we're going to move on. And we're going to talk about the next event. The next important event or the next important piece of information that we learn is that the parents are thinking about taking the grandmother's keys. So this is going to be that however statement. So however, the narrators, and remember narrators is a possessive noun, so we need apostrophe S, parents are concerned that it is no longer safe for grandma. Now we are using grandma like a name, and so therefore we are going to make sure that grandma is capitalized so that grandma to keep driving at her age. And I'm going to put my period, my end of my sentence. So remember here, grandmother has her grandmother, possessive noun in front. So this is not a proper noun. It's not like you're using this in place of her name. Here, when we say for grandma, that would be like saying for Jordan. So you could replace this with someone else's name, which is why it's capitalized here. Our next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the next important piece of information. We learned that this worries the narrator. So we're going to say the narrator worries about this because she knows how much driving means to her grandmother. So after we learn about the narrator's worrying for her grandmother, well, remember this is all building up to our actual story or the actual events that is going to teach us a lesson. So the next thing we know is that the grandmother and the granddaughter feel a connection, or the narrator feels a connection to her grandmother. And we call this a parallel in our annotation. So I'm going to say, she feels a parallel between herself and her grandmother wanting to go their own ways, but being dragged back by her parents. All right, so that's our next one. She feels a parallel between herself and her grandmother wanting to go their own ways, but being dragged back by her parents. That was our last tidbit of information before we really got into the meat of the story or where the lesson occurred. So now we're going to talk about what our lesson was, or how the author created this story and taught us our lesson, or explained how the lessons were learned. So from here, we're moving on and we're going to say, that's going to be our final sentence. Finally, so we're starting with that tag, finally, she tells the suspenseful story of a time she was grounded but tried to get around it by having her grandmother drive her to a party. And so this is the last thing. I'm telling you what the story was about. The story is about the granddaughter telling the story of how she really wanted to go to a party and she convinced the grandmother to let her drive, but in the end, they sent on the side of the road. This is where I stopped because I did not want to give away any more information or give away the ending to the story. I hope this helps, and please let me know if you guys need anything else.